Hello, Tom Levecki here with a very, very special edition of the Armchair NBA. Have a friend and a great guy, Bobby Luisi, former captain of Philadelphia Crime Family, located in Boston. And for those, most people watching know Bobby's story, but I want to welcome Bobby Luisi. Welcome to the Armchair NBA. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good, and thank you for having me on, Tom.
It's my pleasure. So most people know of Bobby, so we're not going to do the backstory. I'm going to put a link to his show. Check him out, Bobby Luisi show with him and Paul Tanzo. What we want to talk about today is a little more focus, and I was always fascinated by the economics of the cocaine supply chain. So let's start it off. So I want to ask you some like more macro questions, and then we'll get a little bit more deeper. What historically has been the mob stance and cocaine and drugs? Walk us through that, Bobby, overall, in your opinion.
Well, when the commission rule came out years ago, they wanted to stop it. And you got to remember, the old bosses had a lot of money, and they didn't want their people dealing with it.
Yeah.
But it's always been in Cosa Nostra. There's always been drugs being dealt in Cosa Nostra. So they try to control it as much as they could, the old timers, but it was just too much money involved.
Well, so, we know that at the bare minimum, probably into the late 80s, the Sicilian mob, along with the certain families in New York, Lucchese's were strong in the Bananos, Gambino. They're very big in the heroin trade, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, heroin kind of, some of it got broken up, some stayed in it. But when the newer guys got inducted, as I understand, during the ritual, it said, don't deal. Do you think the guys that were doing it, did they stop? Did they look the other way? Because I can't imagine Paulie Castellano turning down buckets of money. So walk us through kind of like that transition of, hey, let's stop doing it, and what really happened.
Well, what happens is a May guy, he'll assign it to an associate.
Yeah.
The associate's with him. It's that simple.
Yeah.
He's a capo. He's going to give it to one of his guys, and it's going to go down the chain. So that's how that worked out. Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of guys that had big money in New York and around the country that didn't need to deal drugs.
Yeah.
Paul Castellano didn't need drug money.
Good point.
He's a legitimate millionaire, and he didn't have to do that. But we're looking, I came up on the street, and, what were we supposed to do? How are we going to fund our sports business, our loan sharking, and our other enterprises? How are we going to do that without the drug money?
Now, in the street, before we kind of get to you got inducted and stuff, when you were in the street prior to drugs, what were some of the rackets you started off in? And, was it enough? Were you being greedy by getting the drugs? I want to know, like, your transformation from being kind of a street guy to a major guy in the drug game.
Well, Raymond Petriacca died in 85.
Yes.
His son took over. There was a lot of confusion and disarray in that family. A few guys got killed over that move. I don't want to get into that. When I came back in 1990, there was no money on the street. So I started my bookmaking.
Okay.
And I had a card club. I had two of them, actually.
Nice.
And, we were making some money with that. But really, I needed money to fund these other things that I was doing.
Other operations, yeah.
You lose $50,000 in a week on the sports. You got to come up with it somewhere.
Yeah. So they were kind of like more your I always call blocking and tackling your bread and butter. So what was your first introduction into drugs, and specifically cocaine, from a dealing perspective?
Well, when I was in my 20s, I tried to move it with some of my friends. It didn't work out.
Yeah.
We really didn't get a good product. I didn't know much about it then. And that didn't last too long. When I came back in 90, I seen what all the young guys in the neighborhood were doing. So naturally, I came back. I shook a few of them down. I hooked up with somebody that was just selling packages.
Yeah.
Making $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a week. I hooked up with him. I started to learn the business better. And then I just gradually moved my way up to flipping kilos.
But here's what's interesting, and I know we chatted about it. You had a direct connect to Colombia outside of your, Cosa Nostra ties.
Yeah.
Walk us through that, and how did that happen?
Well, it was funny. There was a girl in the neighborhood that was actually going out with a Colombian.
Okay.
She was hooked up with them. And through her, we got our connection, believe it or not.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's how we started. And I worked with them for several years with the Colombians.
Yeah.
And I had a nice connection with them.
Yeah.
Anything I need, they gave me. And it was a good relationship with them for a while.
Do you know the source? Was it Cali? Was it post Medellin? Was it North Valley? Did you know like kind of the origin of it, or you didn't care?
I didn't care, and I don't remember, to be honest
Yeah.
with you, Tom.
Yeah.
Well, that's over 30 years, almost 30 years
No, of
ago.
course. Of course. Yeah, but you're only 35. How is that, Bobby?
Yeah, I know, right? I wish.
So okay, so you hook up with the Colombians, and you know, what's that dynamic? I always wondered because you are, the Italians call it hombre di onore. You're a man of honor. You're a made guy. This guy's probably tangentially hooked up with the cartel, a different organization. Were you like automatically respected? Like, what was that dynamic dealing with cartel guys being an LCN member?
Well, I dealt with several of them, and
Okay.
it was a good relationship.
Yeah.
They knew I had some power up there.
Yeah.
This is before I was made. They knew I had some power up there, and they seen the quantities that I could move.
Yeah.
I know I could have went a lot further with them.
Yeah.
With the quantity, I just didn't want to at the time. I was comfortable where I was in my business and making 20, 30, 40,000 a week clear.
Nice.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Wow.
it was very lucrative. So I was happy. I wasn't greedy. I mean, I could have grabbed other people. I could have got the cocaine even cheaper, but I didn't decide to go that route. I kept my business the way it was. I built it up. I had one customer take 5 to 10 kilos a week from me.
Interesting.
Besides,
so before we get into the economics of it, so then you get your button eventually, and did you think that when you got straightened out and everything, was it communicated? Hey, listen, you can't deal. Was it unsaid? Was it looked the other way? When the second you got your stripe, what was the understanding of what your responsibility was to do with or without drugs? How did that work?
They didn't want me to deal drugs.
Oh, oops.
No, they didn't want me. They came to me. There was a pinch down, and that was right after Ralph Natali got pinched.
Got it.
And they were hot, and then with that, but they had nothing to do with it, obviously. And with the methamphetamines, whatever he was doing down there.
Yeah.
And they really wanted to stay away from the drugs.
Yeah.
But Ron Previty kept pushing Joey.
Hey.
Ron Previty was an informant with the FBI, the state police. They knew what I was doing, and they were trying. They had no way to get into me. So they pushed, Joey pushed Ronnie on me.
Wow.
He wanted to start livening things up a little, I guess. And that's how they got into me.
Interesting. So before we get that, because I know I say this, if you took a left turn versus a right, you'd be a CEO versus a capo, and I stand by that. So I want to see how you structured your organization. You were capo? Did you have a right hand? Did you have your soldiers, associates? How did the Luisi family structure, and then how did you make your relation to the drugs?
Well, when I got made, the deal I had with Joey is I was going to stay with him for 2 years.
Yeah.
At the Capo and his crew, and then I was going to break off and have my own family. So I was already starting to structure my family, as Cosa Nostra would.
Yeah.
And I had the people line. It was going to be the underboss consigliere. I had all that going.
Oh, wow.
My little mini faction up in Boston of the Bruno family, I ran it like the Luisi family.
Yeah.
And but I answered to Joey.
Yeah.
I did answer to Joey. And he was my boss. But I was getting ready to even make more men and get my stuff put together. And besides that, I ran it more like a corporation because I was a developer, contractor. I was business savvy with all that. And I said, if this is going to work, I have to set it up like a corporation. And that's what I did.
So, okay, so you set it up kind of traditional Cosa Nostra with the intent to break away. Yeah. How many soldiers did you have under you at peak? Made soldiers.
There was 8 of us up there at the time.
Oh, wow.
Several more that were going to get made. Several more that were going to get made, and maybe 100 associates.
Jesus, damn. Okay, so you had 7 or 8 guys, a lot of associates. did you structure it that all 7 guys did some level of drug activity, or was, Paulie your drug guy and George your construction? I want to know how you structured your business to maximize profit. Was everybody a little bit of everything, or did each guy specialize in a different racket?
Everybody did their own thing. I never pushed any of my guys to sell drugs. Half of them,
Interesting.
they didn't want to be involved. So
Interesting.
it went to certain people. But you remember, even before we were made and I was made, I built a clientele.
Got it.
Like any other business. And the few guys that were running that, including Paulie,
Yeah.
they were taking care of the drugs. Who was doing sports, who was doing different things, who was a loan shark, everybody had their own niches, what they wanted to do. And if a guy's not a drug dealer, Tom, you don't force it to be.
Good point.
We're all making money. Again, look at Walmart.
Yeah.
You got the CEO,
Yep.
the cashiers,
Yep.
the people that sweep the floor, the people
Yep.
that greet you. Everybody has a different job.
Correct.
And they're all part of that organization, and they're all needed.
Now, I know you handpicked your guys, and I know you trusted them, but were you more like, did all 8 guys know each other? Was it need to know basis? Were you like all in? Were like, if one guy rats, we're all fucked? Did you maybe keep Paulie away from Joey so they didn't know each other's hustle? How did you set up your organization to minimize informants from
Well,
internal?
most of us all grew up together.
Okay.
A few of my cousins were made, including Paulie.
Yeah.
And I set it up like that, but everybody's business was separate. If I had business with Paulie or Sean or Paulie or David or Ricky, whoever, it was always separate. So the right hand doesn't have to know what the left hand is doing.
So it's compartmentalized and a riskier exposure. That makes sense. Okay, let's get to the economics. So guy comes, shows up. How many keys would you buy starting off, and what was the price of kind of a wrapped key at the time?
Well, that all depends what they were buying. I mostly pushed Recon. So
what's that? What's that?
Well, I'd get a kilo, I'd break it down in half, or I'd make a 65% mix or a 75% mix, depending.
Hold on, I want to get to this. This is important. What would you pay for that brick that's untouched?
I was paying between 19.5 to 24, depending on how it was coming in.
Damn. Let's call it 22 for the kids in the back. Okay. And then so you at that point would break it down by walk us through. So pay the 22, keys in front of you. What happens next?
I'd either sell, break it down in half, and I would sell it probably for 16,000 a key.
Oh shit! So you could flip each half brick essentially for a 5K profit every brick every time. Essentially,
I was averaging about 8,000 a brick.
Jesus, how many bricks were you doing a week?
I don't want to say too much anymore, but like I said, I had one guy alone was doing 5 to 10 a week.
And that's profit. Damn. Okay, so you're making just off that one customer $2 million a year.
Yeah.
So what happens? Okay, so this is everybody watches the show is probably some level of street guy that was in the life, or a mobologist, like somebody's interested in the life. Mm-hmm. What happens when you drive down 95 and you show up with like 200K kick a month? Like, they don't ask questions. Like, you have this major, because I know you well enough that you're honest as the day is long, especially when it comes to Cosa Nostra. So you probably kicked in the right amount. When you show up with these big buckets of cash, nobody asks any questions?
Well, it wasn't like that, Tom.
Okay.
And, I made a certain amount that I would, as a capo, that I would kick up.
Got it.
And that was it. It didn't matter what I made. That was my business.
Oh, so above it. So you're like X amount that you committed to, and above and beyond that. Got it. So now you obviously, and the reason why it's funny, because I don't say funny, but as you're my friend, but aside for that, I'm particularly interested in how you navigated, because you were kind of a Boston street guy that, in my opinion, I don't think you needed to get made, but that's just my humble opinion, because you were connected. The Patriarchas had a little bit of beef with you, and you were entrepreneur hooked up at Philly, right? So like what I'm guessing, what happens when you have a beef, and I know you can handle it, but what happens when you have a beef that's drug related, that you got to run it by Joey or kick by Joey or kick up to your boss, like something big, like something really big. did you say, hey, here's my problem and not mention the
No,
drugs? But how does that
no,
happen?
no. Boston handled its own problems.
Okay.
Billy handled their own problems.
Got it.
And Joey wasn't privy to my everyday business.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got
You
it.
know, you
Okay.
got to know it was almost 300 miles away.
Yeah.
You know, everything that was shot of murder, I didn't discuss with Joey.
Got it. So you were literally a decentralized cell. So that makes sense. All right.
Yeah.
So now you're doing really well in the narcotics trade. What's interesting enough is it seems like you weren't greedy when you broke the brick. There's some people that step on it and could have made a lot more profit. It looks like you cared about the integrity of the product, as crazy as it sounds. So then what happens? And that guy takes it and then he basically wraps it up and sells it at the street level, or was that another person?
It all depends who took it. I mean, there were a few guys that just moved keys. There were guys that would come and get a kilo for their own business, a half a kilo. You know, it all depends. You know, the 1 kilo a week or 2 week guy was usually moving it himself with his crew. And the guy that was coming for 5, 6, 7 keys a week, you know, he was flipping them.
Got it. Got it. So the higher volume flip, make quick money, less margin. The guy maybe taking less, making more. So just the best that you could, right? Because it looked like you're more of a wholesaler at that point, correct?
I guess you could say that.
Got it. So then, okay, the guy would flip it, I get. What about the guy who buys that brick from you for 16 and he actually puts them in 8 balls or whatever it is? I never did coke in my life, but what kind of money does that guy make off of a brick? Because I thought like bricks are worth like $40,000-$50,000 nowadays. No.
Well, that's, you know, I'm going back over 20 years ago.
Got it. Got it. Well, back then, what would that 16K yield the guy who brought that one brick from you for 16?
He'd probably break it up in ounces. He'd break it up in $20 packages, 8 balls.
Yeah.
You know, whatever he decided to do, he probably himself can make 5,000-6,000 on that kilo, depending how we broke it up.
Got it. And then you could, and would they further step on it, or is it kind of ready to rock at that point?
Well, they knew what it was, and a lot of them didn't have to. At 16,000 a key, there's a lot of profit there. But if they did do that, you know, I don't know.
Okay, so
them to do that.
So how do you manage that? Meaning you're making like millions of dollars a year in cash, right?
Yeah. What
are some of the first things that you buy and invest in? And you know, and you put some away for legal. Like so now you have a whole fuck ton of money, right? You're starting to kill it. And you've always did well, but now you're at a different level. Let's be honest, right? What was your first moves with that money? How did you wash it? And how did you try to set yourself up long term?
Well, everything that was going on, I opened a cappuccino bagel place in Cambridge near Harvard.
Nice.
I opened up a pizza sub shop. I opened up a fish store, roast beef and fish. And I opened these places to put my money through there.
So they were cash businesses. So one business would make 1,000 a day, another would make. So you didn't care much about. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know you're a perfectionist. It probably was good places, but these were places to put the money through those channels. Correct?
Exactly. And I'll tell you that all 3 places were a pain in the ass. I was too busy. Had family running it. Didn't work out. Closed them down. You know. And I went another route with the money. What I was doing.
Hold on. I want to get into the economics of this. What type of money could you wash a day through like those 3 places? 10K a day between 3, 20K. What type of money? Because I want to get like how much you could wash versus how much was coming in. Because I don't think 3 places are enough.
Well, listen, the sports business, a lot of my money, you know, went to shy money on the street. And
got it.
Who needs 20,000? Who needs 50? I can't put my money back on the street.
Got it.
I never really washed too much money through the restaurants.
Got it. So you got rid of them. You're making on the kilo cash. What's your next move to a loan? Because this is what I never understood, and maybe because you were on your own, and maybe I'm naive, but I always saw, let's say you're Capo, and there would be, oh, hey, I need to launder money. The organization would have a relationship with a bank or an institution or something, almost like a franchise. Oh, we do business here. You're going to pay 15%, but you could wash it. Like you were on your own to wash the money, correct?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So the Philly mob doesn't really have a kind of broker or relationship as far as you knew at the time, correct?
Right.
Okay. So how did you wind up washing the cash?
Like I said, I put most of it on the street, Tom. That's what I
Interesting.
ended up doing with it. You know, and plus I lived a very high lifestyle. I've always had 2 or 3 safe houses at a time,
Okay.
my own homes, cars, everything. You know, I lived like a millionaire. I was, you know, we were doing well. I tried to keep as much as I could under the radar.
Yeah.
What I really should have did is I should have started investing in property because at one time I was a developer.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah. But, you know, all my guys that were getting pinched, the guys around me, guys I knew, they come in, they take the houses, the cars, take all their
Yeah.
property. I didn't want to go that route. And another friend really big in the stock market, giving me tips on stocks. Sure enough, he gets pinched. They take everything from him.
So
this course, you know,
yeah.
through my coming up. And I says, you know what? It's not worth it.
Now,
I
how
had
many?
property, but it wasn't under my name.
Got it.
And we had the cars. We had I leased everything afterwards. This way, if they came, they won't take them because we didn't own them. We leased them.
Got
So
it.
I was living like that for a while, Tom.
Now, how many stash houses did you have?
Sometimes 2, another time 3.
Now, is one just for money, one just for drugs, one just for emergencies? What are stash houses exactly?
There was always one just for drugs.
Yeah.
That only me and another person were privy to know where it was.
Okay.
No one else knew. And then I had safe houses that I lived in, you know, while the war was going on.
Yeah.
You know, I always had to have like 2 or 3 places. I got so hot that I couldn't even go to the drugs house anymore. I couldn't even do that. So my guys would take care of that, whoever I elected to do it, you know. And because I had a ton of heat on me.
Yeah. As a capo, because again, I could see 2 ways. One, letting the right people do their job, but on the other end, maybe being a little hands-on. Would you see the cocaine? Would you did you touch either the cocaine or the money, or did you have a process? So yeah, walk us through how that was processed.
No, I would touch the money, some of it.
Yeah.
But I had it all set up that my guys took care of all of it. All they had to do was report back to me what was actually going on.
Wow, that's a high level of trust.
Sometimes you have no choice, Tom. Now, do I think some of them were robbing? Yeah. A little here and there. I know they were. That's all right. They grab a few extra ounces for themselves a week. They make it 2,000-3,000. They're happy. I'm happy. I got $1 million business. No, I know there was a little robbing.
It's a cost. It's a cost of doing business, and it's like the bartender when you own a place. They're going to dip in once in a while or overpour a drink. Again, you got to count for that in your business. Yeah. So all right, so now you're starting to make some money. You got the stash houses. You're making the 7 figures. I mean, doing pretty well. You know, we talked about this. I think on the old show. I think we talked about this in person. I always felt this about you, and I think you would agree. If you had another year, you would have. I really think you would have wrapped it up, took your money out, and did some great stuff. Walk us through that a little bit. What was your plan going in, and then where did it go wrong?
Well, you know, before the pitch happened in '99, I kind of was getting disillusioned with the life.
Yeah.
All these guys getting pitched around me, they're all ratting on me. You know, what I wanted to do actually was break off from Joey.
Oh, wow.
So I had my own family and make my own decision. And then I wanted just to give it to my family, my cousins, and just go. I wanted to go retire in Florida.
Oh, wow.
I know I was a little too young to retire, but I would have found something else to do. But I wanted to get out of the life. The life was terrible.
So you had your exit strategy. So do you like kind of hand it, like, again, would you have handed it over and they pay you like a cut? Would they give you a flat rate kind of for the right to do the business? I just want to know, what did you envision being the exit strategy here for you?
That's a good question. I didn't think that far ahead. I just wanted out.
Got it.
I had a package put away. Just wanted to get out.
Got it. All right. So now let's get
never greedy and never cared about money.
So now let's get to the beginning of the end. I saw the guy on Value Entertainment. He kind of shared how he infiltrated, but I want to hear from your point of view. How did the infiltration happen, and what mistakes did you make in retrospect where you're just like, fuck that shit? Because it looked like you had a good run. It looked like, although people knew you, you were insulated. You know, what was the first crack and what was the first mistake you may have made?
Well, what happened? You know that Mike McGowan came in through Ronnie Prevett. He was an FBI agent.
Correct.
I was approached at a party in Center City. It was with all the Philly guys.
Yeah.
And Ronnie came up to me. I didn't like Ronnie. I didn't get along with him.
Yeah. He seemed squirrely for obvious reasons.
To me, and I hate to say this word, but to me, he was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Joey made him a capo. He didn't have a crew.
Yeah.
And that night, actually, I was kind of picking on him because they sat him at my table. So I was picking on him a little.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, everybody was off the table. I was there by myself having a drink. All the women were gone. And he come up to me, start talking about the drugs.
Oh.
And I said, Ron, listen, I'm not in that business. Don't come to me with that again.
Yeah.
He says, no, Joey said it. We got to stop making money. So I walked up to Joey. I said, Joey, this guy just came and asked me about this.
Yeah.
Joey threw his hands up. He says, we got to make money. And he walked away. You know, and
wow.
walked away from me. And I said, all right. You know, I got to make a choice here what I'm going to do. Actually, Sean Viteri was there that night at the party. He was a micro made guy. And I went and told Sean about it. And this was already after we started building a little relationship with Mike McGowan.
Yeah.
So now they figured they come in with the drugs, you know. And I told Sean, I said, this is no good. Because I had Mike dealing with one of my cousins. I said, we're going to pull them back. We got to make a decision if we're going to do this or not. Not that it was Sean's decision, it was mine. But I went back to Boston, had a meeting with my guys. And we had to make a decision then what we were going to do with Joey and Philly and what move we were going to make. So I told him, I said, I'm really not ready to break off from Philly right now.
Yeah.
And I don't want to cause a war over this.
Yeah.
So I pulled everybody away from Mike and I started talking to him myself.
Wow.
Because I said if he wasn't, well, my whole thing on the street was to protect my friends and my family.
True.
I'm not going to have one of my cousins go into a trap.
So what happens with Mike? Because I know you were cautious. Hey, Bobby, I want to do business with you. Did you take him to dinner? Did you give him a few weeks?
It wasn't Mike. It was Ronnie Prevett. Remember, he was a Capo in the family.
Yeah.
He had Joey's ear.
Got it.
You know, this didn't happen overnight because I was palling them off. I didn't want to deal with them.
Got it.
But I went down one time and, the indirect way that mobsters talk, again, I was told to help them out.
Jesus Christ.
And again, I didn't. And finally, Ronnie came up one day and I got a phone call from Joey. Say, hey,
but I don't mean to get on you, but it's like a red flag that they were pushing.
Of course it was. Of course it was.
Yeah.
Of course it was. I told you. That's why I pulled my guys back.
Got it.
No one can understand how this guy was able to talk to me. That's what happened.
Got it. Interesting. Because there was kind of poor leadership at the top. It got pushed down on you. Your leadership style was, you know what? Let me insulate my guys and deal with them. So when you dealt with Mike directly, in retrospect, was this guy good at what he does? And you're like, you know what? Hats off. Or did you maybe make some mistakes while you're dealing with him?
I don't think I made any.
Yeah.
I couldn't help it. I felt he was an agent or a CI. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
We even talked. We had a meeting about clipping him and Ronnie.
Holy shit.
But that would have started a war with Joey, and I don't want to do that because I respected and loved La Cosa Nostra. Yeah. And Joey was my boss. If Joey told me to go kill somebody, I would.
Yeah.
Why am I not going to sell this man drugs?
Good point. Now, in retrospect, again, you had an uneasy feeling. Was, with Mike, like, did he? I think you told me once. You're like, look at their socks. If they're cheap socks, it's a Fed. You know what I mean? Like the little things. What tips, in retrospect, did Mike screw up on, or? You know what? You had a feeling it was all gut, but he did a decent job. I just want to kind of connect that portion.
Let me explain. They're down in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Supposedly Mike was up in Boston. Supposedly.
Yeah.
Right next to New York. They got cash. Why'd they come into Boston to get recon?
Yeah.
Think about it, Tom. What am I, a moron? I knew this was all a setup. I had a feeling it was.
Jesus.
And to me, it was kind of a way out if he wasn't. You know, not
Interesting.
becoming a farmer. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But when I got arrested, I was only facing 10 to 12 years. That would have gave me time to go in. Everybody else would have did what they did.
Correct.
And I come home and I moved to Florida. That was my plan. My wife even bought a condo in Florida.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because that was the plan. Get the kids, everybody out of Boston. And that's what we would decide. That's what we were going to do.
So you were like disillusioned in a way where you're like, if this is somebody, you know what, I take the pinch, I move on. This is maybe God telling me something, but or if it's not, you know what, let me make a few bucks. So it looks like you did have an exit strategy. You just didn't have time to execute on. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair to say. But even getting pinched with Mike, that strategy would have worked better because I would have done my time.
Yeah.
You know, but while I was in there, I got news that I was getting re-indicted on murders from the next grand jury. So that changed everything.
Jesus. And then we all know what happened next. All right. So to tie this up, I just want to like also discuss you now, you're a person of faith. And it's not BS. I've been with you. You are, you're a man of faith now. And again, whether people believe it or not, it's not for them to decide, right? They can have their opinion, but it's not for them to decide. Looking back as a man of faith, how do you look back that part of your life? Do you forgive Mike? Yeah, I want to see how you kind of reconcile the new Bobby and the more faithful Bobby, if you will, versus how do you look at your old self? How would you judge your old self, and how would you judge Mike?
I was never mad at Mike. Actually, he wrote that book with Ralph Azzulo.
Yeah.
And I was doing a few things with Ralph, and Mike signed the book for me. I got a signed book from him. I'm not mad at nobody. Even when he was in the courtroom, he tried to act like with that tough bullshit stuff, which was nonsense. Yeah. And I just laughed at him. I'm not mad at nobody. I wasn't mad at Ronnie Previty. I wasn't mad at nobody. It was a trap they set for me. I fell in it almost voluntarily, to be honest with you. And no, forgave everybody.
Interesting. So, and then your old life, obviously, and again, granted, Coke is more of an expensive drug, and those people that do it pay the freight and are theoretically better economically. But do you feel bad about that? You still deal drugs?
That's the only thing I regret from the life is all the drugs, especially after what happened with my daughter 2 years ago.
Sorry to hear that, Bobby, by the way.
No, thank you. I could never sell a drug again. I'm against drugs. We try to help people, especially Paulie, that are having problems. Yeah. People reach out to Paulie. He's got the connections. He does what he has to do. I'm really got no respect for that anymore. And, that's it now.
And you're a changed man. Give us a little bit about what's going on with the show and other things that you're working on, Bobby.
Let's see. I just did a nice podcast with Mike Francaise.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I got a few more coming up. I got another guy going to be doing a podcast with hopefully after the first of the year. And I've talked with Sammy.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, that's, we'll see what's going on with this COVID and everything. Sammy's a nice guy. We talked several times. And, Sammy was one of the guys I looked up to on the street years ago.
Yeah.
And he's really a good guy. I like Sammy. And, you're going to see more shows coming up with me now. We were doing the Wednesday Night Live for a little while. Me and Paulie want to continue doing that.
Nice.
And just keep doing these podcasts and having some guests on.
God bless. What about faith-wise? I know you were doing stuff with the church. What do you got cooking there?
What I'm going to try to do is separate the two.
Yeah.
And start teaching again.
God bless.
Years ago, I had a YouTube channel and a website under Alonzo Esposito when I was teaching down in Tennessee. So I'm thinking of doing that again under my name, Bobby Luisi, and start a ministry that way, a YouTube ministry.
God bless. Well, listen, Bobby, I appreciate you coming on. I know Paulie's not feeling well. Please give him my best for me. we want to do this a little bit of a quicker one. Bobby's going to be back on. I might be back on his show. We're friends. So
Yep.
we'll talk more about a lot of other stuff, but we did want to kind of nail down the economics of cocaine. You see that obviously there was a lot of money in it, but you know what? It leads to a bad road. And at the end of the day, even as a man, and you know, you're regretful. And I respect that about you, Bobby. You didn't over glorify. You didn't, like a lot of people get excited when they talk about their old life. So they have interviewed a lot of people in your shoes. You seem, or you are remorseful, and then now you're a man of faith. So, Bobby, listen, I'll leave you with the parting words before we conclude. What do you want to say to the audience?
Stay away from the drugs. You know, it's not worth it. It's not worth selling the drugs. I just got to say, stay away from it.
Agreed.
You know, everything you learn, yeah, there's a lot of money in it. These young guys that are out the street, they know that. It's hard for them to turn away. But it's better to be able to go home at night and put your head on the pillow and not worry who's ratting on you. If the DEA or FBI are kicking your door in, go get a job at Wendy's. You'd be better off. You'd be better off.
When you figure the anguish, time lost away in prison, away from your family, and of course what you're doing to you know, people, listen, drugs steal your soul. Let's call it what it is. And I'm happy that you're repentant. Bobby, thanks for being on the show.